How can we keep laughing, Lily? Oh, Lily, I want to tell you, I'm writing this book about the 4 orphans in the flu epidemic of 1918, my mother and her sisters. I started this a year and a half ago. So I've been doing a lot of research. You got it when I've never had to do this kind of research before. I was always an editor, and the books I've written are based on interviews, not on what did they feed the school children in 1918 in PS 63. I can tell you that. But one of the things I learned is the Newsies. You've seen the movie about the Newsies, the newspaper boys. Mm-hmm. They were an extremely, on the Lower East Side especially, they made more money than any other kids because they have $1, they buy 100 papers, and they get a nickel for every paper. So they had to sell 20 papers, they broke even. And then they had to, they couldn't return the papers for credit that they didn't sell, but they did very well. And they were known not to turn all the money over to their families. They kept a nickel a week, and they went to the Nickelodeon, which was the early movies. And it turns out that to be a successful newsie, you've got to capture the attention of the people rushing on the street. And Milton Berle was a newsie. Many of the comedians were the most successful. They were newsies, and they learned about attention and entertainment. And many of the Jews who started Hollywood started out in the East Coast as newsies. So, wow. Isn't that great? So,
my father was a newspaper boy on the Lower East Side at a very young age. And one of the funniest stories he told was he would be on the street and he said, "Wife of President Wilson dies. Wife of President Wilson dies." So he learned the tricks of the trade.
He did. That's great. I'm gonna get more stories from you at another point, because Bertie's her best friend on the street is a newsie. And I've read the books, but that is fabulous. That is there you go. So, and that's one of the things that gives me so much pleasure.
That was a great movie, though, the movie they made about the newsies. Yes. I loved it.
Wonderful movie.
I took my grandchildren to see it. How long ago was that? I don't know.
It was more than a week ago, Lily. How old are your grandchildren?
Well, the one that I'm most worried about right now, just 21, and she's right in the thick of the worst pandemic in Wisconsin, where the governor is opening up a great big, I don't know, facility to take the overflow of all the COVID patients. But she's very responsible. They have an apartment, and they've been getting tested, and they're shopping and cooking in their apartment and doing their classes much online. And they're being, I mean, really, she's very responsible, and they're looking at some of these other students who, when they came, you know, they had this problem. Well, the worst of it doesn't seem to be in Madison, where she is. It looks like La Crosse and Green Bay, certain parts of the state, Milwaukee. But I'm very concerned about Wisconsin because of that. And my other granddaughter, is 23, and she just started her first job, actually. This is the one that graduated from Penn State. And we're just so happy that she, in the midst of all of this, she actually got a decent paying job. So she just finished her first week and a half, and she's able to work from home.
Where does she live, and what does she do?
Well, she got a degree. It has something to do with environmental, digital, I don't know. She learned something about geospatial something in college, and this is a company that does engineering and environmental impact statements. And they're all over the country. They're headquartered in Parsippany, New Jersey, but they're all over the world, and they're all over this country. So actually, when the pandemic is over, she'll probably be assigned to the Philadelphia office. but she was over here helping me with my weeds, which was about my best thing. So I don't know. I don't have to like think about getting their attention or whatever. I just called them up every once in a while, and I think I mentioned, I don't know, every week I try to send my granddaughter something. And this week being October the 10th, my ex-husband died in 2003. And I just decided I'm going to get my journal out and see what in the world was going on there. And then I started reading all through 2003, and I found my granddaughter in college now had her 4-year-old birthday party, and her father dressed up as the Beast, and they were all little beauties. And I had the complete description of the birthday party and the piñata with all the candy that fell out. They had a Barbie piñata, and everything that was going on there. And I found that was the year I bought a recreational vehicle, and it was the first time we went to a sleepaway bluegrass weekend. And we were able to get them out in the meadows to see where they, the sheepdog runs the sheep. And then we got back so that they could see actually how the sheep are shorn. And one of the women there had, she was able to spin. And so they saw the wool coming off and then go back to the campsite, and she showed them how she turns the wool into thread. So I found wonderful things that were happening in 2003, along with everything terrible, because it really was a horrible year in our family. The parents' marriage was breaking up. And when I just look back on all the things that I was going through, I thought, you know, that maybe the worst year since it was 2020. And so I looked at 2003 and all the terrible things that were going on. Meanwhile, we're trying to help the kids get through all this turmoil in their family. I said, well, at least I didn't have a pandemic in 2003, because then it would be equal to what we're dealing with now. But anyway, so I spent today taking segments out of my journal and typing it up, and I'm going to send it to my granddaughter so I can give her back her 4-year-old birthday party when she danced with the Beast, and when she learned how you get wool into thread. And all of these wonderful things that we did. The main thing was I was taking care of my godmother. I took care of after I retired, I took care of them for 8 years, and I was running back and forth from Pennsylvania to Garden City on Long Island for years, driving.
Yeah.
And my daughter would bring them when I finally had to put my aunt in a nursing home. That was 2003, and I had to sell her house and clean it out and move it to the nursing home, and I was a wreck. Just having to move her and leave her in a nursing home, I was crying. I was going to groups, you know, that were dealing with putting someone in a nursing home, that there's no other resource that you can do. And here's my daughter bringing my grandchildren always to the nursing home, and they drew her pictures, and they danced and they sang. And I sat before with my daughter and I said, you know, just looking back on what you were going through in your life, my aunt and uncle had 17 nieces and nephews. You know how many ever took care of them or bothered to visit? Next to none. And here's my daughter with these 2 little kids going through a divorce and bringing them to my aunt in the nursing home and just brightening her life. And I said, you know, I just look back and realize how absolutely kind you were and so generous and giving at this difficult time in your life. And I don't even think about it, which is another reason why I'm so grateful that years ago I went to the Ira Progoff journal writing workshop. And since I've been writing in 1987, I mean, I can go back now and look at all of these things and really appreciate in perspective what was going on there. And I just thanked her again for all she did when my aunt was 97. She had her 97th birthday in 2003. She actually made it to 99 3/4, and they were all excited in the nursing home because they said George W. Bush was going to send her a birthday letter. And I said, Don't be excited about that. She'll throw it right in the pail. She's a goddamn Democrat, and she doesn't want to hear from Bush.
That's wonderful. You know, when I turned 75, it was in the summer, and I would pick up my granddaughter. It was 6 years ago, so she was 6, and she'd come from camp, get off the bus. You know, they throw them off the camp bus, and I'd be on the sidewalk, and we'd go to the diner, Metro Diner on 99th Street, and we'd have dinner. And she always wanted to sit on my side. You know, she wanted to snuggle, and she said, "Grandma, you have a big birthday coming up." "Yes," I said. And she said, "I'll always come to see you." And I said, "What do you mean, Ruby?" She said, "When you're in that place, I'll come to see you even if you're in a wheelchair." And I said, "Even if I'm going, ugh," she said, "I will never leave you, Grandma." And that's because her mother's family had the children visit her grandmother all the way through.
Yeah.
And this is home learning. And this is all about the generations and how I have never kept a diary. And when I hear your story, Lily, I kick myself under the table, because imagine that. But another piece of it is that when we look back on this era, on this time, we will also be able to remember the birthday party and the visits, because our lives are, it's a necklace strung with beads, and some of the beads are painful and some of the beads are wonderful. We're hardwired to remember difficulty because it's a life-saving thing to be alert to danger. But that diary is giving you such a wonderful, that journal is giving you such a wonderful, it's like a quilt. It's a great quilt of your life. It's just wonderful.
I had no idea when I started it. And Dr. Progoff said that when you do this, it's like having a film, and that, you know, this reel on either side, and that as you write about it, and many times maybe you're looking at each square, and over time you'll get a better understanding of what had happened. I think the guy was a genius, and that was a great blessing in my life to be able to do that workshop with him.
Did you do that with him in person?
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, because I'm familiar with Progoff, but I never met him.
Oh, right.
So that's
No,
nice.
I bought all his books and tapes and the meditation. I did the whole 9 yards. And, you know, when you're working and your life is so busy, you're not doing it as much as I can do it now. And I've always also been writing about what's happening in the world, because I intended to give this to my grandchildren, to give them their lives. And they always know that they're going to have their life story. And so I just wrote to my granddaughter. I said, well, I'm going to leave out the part where George W. Bush landed on the aircraft carrier in 2003 and declared, "Mission accomplished." Right. Only it's 2020. Oh, so sometimes I include that stuff, but mostly now with the pandemic, I'm trying to find things that bring back good memories of our family.
It's good.
I'm going to share something really weird. When I was younger and sort of tormented in an unhappy marriage, I wrote all these, you know, personal journals. And then at some point I looked at them and I said, they all say the same thing. You know, I don't really need to keep writing these things. But I actually have a photographic memory. So I have hardly any photographs. Anyone can mention a topic and I can literally picture it, see it, hear it,
Wow.
feel it, and watch it. And then it might have associations to other events. It's really quite amazing. But one really good thing is the other night I was, you know, I would often think about empathic failures of my mother, or things she said to me that annoyed me. And particularly as I have a son now reacting the way I did. And the other night, I just started thinking about how much love my mother gave me and how amazing, she was, despite any empathic failures in her life, in her relationship with me, but just how much love was there. And
That's
that just
so
felt great.
wonderful, Nora. I was talking with a friend about we were both complaining about our mothers,
Of course.
of course. And I used to be a book editor, so I came up with this great book title. It's called The Myth of the Perfect Parent.
Mhm.
Ah,
Nora, you want to write it? Anyway,
I actually had a very idealized version of my family life, and in many ways it was perfect and idyllic, but that was sort of on the outside. Inside, and I didn't realize it, I guess, until I went into psychoanalysis,
when everything, yeah,
that I really understood some of the painful things that went on, and how it was impairing my ability to choose a really good relationship with a man. So that was like my
that was
my
good.
big wake-up calls to some of the issues that I had. But yeah, yes, I you know what? I don't write. I'm too much of an extrovert to write.
Oh,
I only like to talk and tell stories. I love to do that.
well,
But
somebody should write. Anybody here want to write that book? Because I think particularly as a result of COVID. Now I spent 45 years a book editor. I'm a hammer. Every good idea is a book. So forgive me for this.
it's
But
okay. I wish I honestly, I like writing and I'm a good writer. And I wish
that you
I
could,
wanted to be a writer.
yeah.
But every time I do it, even in a long email or stuff I send out, I get to a point where I say, okay, enough. I spend enough time, and I spend a long time writing emails, even texts. They have to be grammatically perfect and
Of course.
blah, blah, blah.
But the idea, but I think one of the messages of this conversation is our children are trying to be the best parents they can be to our grandchildren. And everybody is having a much tougher time than we know, or even than they can accept. And the children are trying to be good kids. I had brunch with my 16-year-old grandson, the oldest, outside a couple of weeks ago. His father texted me and said, "How is he doing?"
ah,
And he's a junior in high school, and this sucks. He's being brave about it, but so the idea that we can say that we cannot say to them, because you can never say this to them, but let them know perhaps that we understand that they also lose their tempers and that they're having a hard time, and that the kids are, and that how are the kids fine may be a protective response, and maybe we can even find ways to parent our children in just by being accepting, and by giving them a sense that we have a sense that it's not all great.
I have a question for everyone.
Good.
How much of your own angst do you share with your adult children? Anyone want to write a book about that?
Well,
what do you mean?
In other words, how much do you want to share with your children how hard things are for you, or what you're struggling with, or your illnesses, or your depression, or anxiety, or stress level? How much do you want to share, and how much do you not want to share? How do you balance that? A book, Jane?
it's not a book, but I'll give you an answer, which is I don't tell them.
Mhm.
I'm an upbeat person, as you know.
Right.
They say, "We're so proud of you, Mom. You're so upbeat." So I have found in my life with my grown children that if I really want to complain, I go to a friend,
Right.
And I think that's why God put girlfriends on the planet, because they'll, you know, they'll listen to us and we'll listen to them, and there are no repercussions.
Right.
Whereas if I am scared I'm afraid to put the burden on my kids. And I have found in this 6 months that they think they know what I should do.
I agree completely. That I don't share a lot of things with my girls about my internal struggles or my struggles with their dad, because they are kind of like men. They think I have to solve this for her.
Right.
And you can't just vent a little. Well, there's no venting a little. There's there's either venting a lot or just keeping your mouth shut, I find, because my daughters, I don't know what it would be like to have a son, but my daughters feel that they have to fix things for me. And that puts me in a child place. And
Absolutely.
that's just not acceptable right now, especially when what I know, I just happen to have gone through more things than they do. And I know, I know how this is going to go, how some things are going to go. I don't know the future, but I know how people react to things more than I think they do, having been through times, you know, the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. I think I have more experience with the ups and the downs.
Yeah.
And but I do find that they think they have to fix things for me. And what's funny is that, you know, I'm here, I have the capacity, I'm lucky I have the energy, and I fix things. I'm
Well,
the fixer.
this is one of the
And so-
great transfers of power in those days of March. You could feel it. They called. So many children called and said to their parents, "You can't go out anymore. You have to do this. You have to do that." And my friends would complain, and I would say, "Well, either they love us, or they don't want us to die alone on a ventilator."
Mhm.
Because they couldn't have a shiva or whatever. You know, there's some reason that they want us to be okay. And so many of us felt bludgeoned by it. And now, one of my sons has access to all kinds of medical information. He's not a doctor, but he has, and so I'll ask him for some statistical information. And the other one, he calls most evenings to see how I am, and I'd better be okay, because he's got a
You've got to be okay.
Yeah. I know
Yeah.
my son is not really receptive to my feelings. Now, he was at the opposite end of the spectrum. He was not calling to say, "No, you can't be with the kids." He's going, "What do you mean you aren't going to be taking care of them every day?
well, and
Why not?" You know, so that was more his point of view. It was a completely different thing. So I had to hang on to my power to say, "No, I'm not going to do that." Now, I will tend to be at an age appropriate level more open with my grandkids because they are more receptive. You know, there's some things I don't talk to them about, and they're between 4 years old and 11 years old.
like,
But I
give
will
an
talk to them
example.
about how much I miss them and how I
Mhm.
want to be with them.
Mhm.
We were at a jam because my husband's a musician, and it was spread out over the whole yard. You know, so people were distanced from each other, but it was getting cold. So this one guy went, "Hey, come on in here closer," because they had a little propane stove. And everybody was starting to cluster close around that little stove. And he's going, "Come on, the fun's just starting. Come in here." And I went, "No, I promised my grandchildren I would try to be around to watch them grow up." Yeah. And I tried. I didn't say it really in a mean way. I hope not. Well, I hope not, but I was just telling the truth. Like, no, I'm not going to come in there, you know, and cluster in with you. Yeah, it looks like fun. Really does look like fun, but it's not happening right now. And I will share that with my grandkids, that is why I'm not with them as much as I used to be,
Yes.
because I want to be there to see them grow up. I want to meet their kids. And
It's
this is
the long
important.
view.
It's a long view. And that's one of the great things that we offer is the long view, the perspective.
Mhm.
It's really true. So I had this idea that I should live to be 100 so I can tell their children about how they behaved during COVID. But it's so, I find that the question of how to be safe, okay,
Mm.
has so much emotional and moral weight.
Mhm.
I have a friend who thinks I'm being too cautious. And I'm polite. And when I hang up the phone with her, then I tell her what I really think. As in,
Yeah.
why are you being so tough on me? I want to live. You don't have children. I have children. Whatever. I would never say that to her.
Yeah.
And I am by and large more cautious for the same reason, because I do want to be around. And I'm probably more cautious than I ought to be because the viral load in the city has gone down so seriously. But I point like this. That's Mount Sinai Hospital out my window. So I had serious anxiety for a very long time, and I'll be goddamned after 6 months of this that I'm going to take a chance.
Mhm.
So, but then I think, well, you're such a fraidy cat. The viral load has gone down. Why don't you, and it goes back and forth, but it has, I think perhaps because of the politics in the country at the moment.
That's huge.
The decision about how to take care of yourself and take care of your family has become so weighted. It makes it harder.
I think we're all getting tired of this.
Oh yeah.
So going, hey, I would love to come in and get close by that little fire. Yeah, I'm tired of not doing that,
Right.
but I'm still not going to.
Takes a lot of self-control.
Mm.
It really does. So, but look at this.
There's the college student. There's the college student. What did we learn in college? We
Yeah.
learned self-control.
Yeah. Oh,
Mm.
They
yeah.
don't have it.
Yeah.
They may develop it. This is early months. And
I learned some then.
what?
In college, I learned some self-control in
Oh,
college.
We had to.
And I think we had to. So here's hoping.
Mm.
Also, those 4 years is such 4 years of such uncontained growth, emotional and intellectual growth. I mean, you come in a freshman. When Nora and I met in our dormitory, we were children. By the time we graduated, we were post-children. We were, whatever. But and the other thing is that we keep on learning. We keep on growing. We keep on changing. And this is the great, and adapting. And this is the great secret. We don't have to learn this secret. We've lived it. The secret of survival, the secret of finding the humor, writing the letters. I mean, all of these things, everything that's come out today, these are all, and everybody has them. All our little secrets of survival. Or maybe there's this expression, the secret sauce. So the secret sauce of our lives is noticing. We don't have your perfect memory, Nora, but noticing something interesting or good has just happened. And saving that. Think of a jewelry box. Remember those jewelry boxes where you'd open it up and it would go kind of covered in fake leather? Think of a jewelry box where we put those moments, we save those moments, and we savor those moments. And when it's raining and you can't have dinner with your friend, as I have today, you pull out the jewelry box and say, that was so amazing. So that's the sermon. I think it's true. And every one of us everybody here has added to our communal jewelry box. Although Nora, I am going to call the dentist in the morning. I'm not, I'll let you know. But the idea, I'm scared to go to the dentist because mouths are open.
Of course.
Yeah,
But guess what?
absolutely.
They're more scared. They're more exposed than we are. They're
Yes.
poking around in mouths all day. So they have to be. That's what I realized, sort of my transition from anxiety in the dental chair to breathing.
Yes.
And the other secret, Jane, is put on earbuds and chamber music.
Yes. I think earbuds change. New Yorker cartoons, earbuds, chamber music. These are our staples. It's more important than rice and it's more important than beans. It's the things that give us the energy to be good and to get out of bed in the morning, and to live our lives and to find the good, because there's lots of good, as we've heard today. Time to go. Thank you all. See you in 2 weeks.